Eileo guys, and welcome back, and in today's video we have our newest Nat 3/Nat 4 just in time for Halloween. I'm super stoked about this one. We have, I guess her name is Spooky. We're gonna go ahead and roll with that, but quick synopsis here, or quick just aesthetic review. I think she looks awesome. I am more curious to see maybe some more like 2D-ish models of monsters in the game, because all monsters don't have to be like 3D, but she looks very cartoony, and obviously she's 3D, but I was just thinking to myself, it'd be cool if like we had some monsters that are literally like 2D, or like Mr. Game & Watch, if you guys happen to know who that is. But anyways, we're starting off here with the fire version of Spooky. Keep in mind that she is a Nat 3. I believe the light and dark are Nat 4s, but we'll find out here very shortly. So, at level 60, Fire Spooky, who is a balance type, is coming in with 27k HP, 2.2k attack, and then 2.4k defense. Attack and defense should be a little bit more equal since she's balanced, but her HP pool is okay as a Nat 3. This may be potentially useful for newer players out there, but probably not. But anyways, she comes in with Shield Breaker for her 3-star skill, and then her 5-star skill happens to be Weaken, and it says drags the souls of all enemies. So she is AoE, and it looks like she does purely just damage. She isn't a healer or anything like that. And she also has a variant skill for Fighting Spirit, which boosts up your attack power. Not the worst thing in the world, but it's quickly just outdated as you get further along into the game here. But general thoughts here is obviously she's purely for debuffing. Weaken on the 5-star skill is interesting because Weaken, at least in my opinion, is something that should be applied over and over again. And Shield Breaker is something that could be applied over and over again too. So a bit odd, but I guess outside of maybe Apophis, don't really see a need for this mon, because I mean that's pretty much where I use Shield Breaker at, and you can also get Shield Breaker as like a super ascension skill. So purely for debuffing, no real usage in Titans. Maybe if you need it for, what is it, Colossus, but we have Kiki as well, and Kiki isn't an exotic Ashramon. You can build Kikis anytime that you want. So the fire one, I think it's going to be a no for me, dog. But let's go ahead and take a look at the skill books though. So her Shield Breaker gets a, what is that, a 25% damage boost, and then Weaken gets a 20% damage boost and goes up to 80% for 2 turns. I'm just not a fan of that 5-star Weaken, dude. It's just meh. So the fire one, yikes. But let's keep it going. Once again, great color distribution right there. It's kind of muted, I guess, in regards to her body, but then you have her hair, which is like blue and kind of pops out. I love that color dynamic here, just FYI. But anyways, the water version of Spooky is a defender type, coming in with, spoiler alert, 28k HP, 2k attack, and then 3.1k defense. That's, wow, Nat 3. It's a bit bizarre. I mean, that's higher than I honestly expected, which means her skills are probably... Let's take a look at them. So 3-star skill, Thirst, 80% chance to reduce the target skill gauge by 20%. 5-star skill, Resistance down, 100% chance for 2 turns. The resistance down part isn't that bad. However, I prefer my resistance down to kind of synergize with the 3-star skill, and Thirst really isn't an optimal choice like ever. Maybe at the very beginning of the game, but especially as a Nat 3 with Thirst on the 3-star skill. Once again, this is just gag me with a machete. Like, these don't synergize whatsoever. So I'm gonna go ahead and say straight up, don't even bother with this one. Build it for the Asher guy to move on. I'm not gonna harp on that too much. Skill book wise though, Thirst does receive a 20% damage boost, and it goes up to, what is it, 100%? 100%, 2 turns of it sticking. Doesn't matter. Resistance down gets a 30% damage boost as well. Asher guy this baby girl and move on. But moving on here, we have the wood version of Spooky, who is an attacker type, coming in with 26k HP, 2.8k attack, and then 1.7k defense. I'm laughing because her defense might as well just be 0, dude. Okay, 2.5k is generally what I accept as decent defense. Anything lower than that gets kind of sus. But when you drop below 2k, it might as well be 0, because with trinkets and all other stuff being attached to these Ashramon nowadays, especially with, what is it, the Void Crystals? Dear gosh, dude. But anyways, let's take a look at these skills. So 3-star skill, 100% chance to restore 30% of her own SP when attacking. That's great, because it then slides over here into a 5-star puncture. So this is a Nat 3 wood Ashramon, basically the Nat 3 version of Fire Dragon. That's the easiest way to put it, or maybe Dark Gilgamesh, even though he has Battle Rush instead of Morale Boost, etc. right here. So 100% wave clear material. However, unless you were unlucky and unfortunate, the anniversary did come around where you had access to other wave clear Astromon. And more importantly, I've stated this before, players get Dark Mana and Fire Draka. Unless you need this mod for specific content, there's literally no use. I don't even have to take a look at the skill books. I'm just saying, literally no use. Maybe you want to use her in the Nat 3 League though. None of my business. Anyways, taking a look at the skill books here. Morale Boost does get a 20% damage boost and goes up to 40% for herself. Puncture receives a 20% damage boost and it goes up to 75%. And even then, that puncture rate is so low. I think Draka's is like 90%. It's just, it would be interesting if it was on a Astromon that was more capable right here, but it's just a wave clear if you need somebody. But the game literally hands you out like the best wave clears from the very beginning, I do believe, just starting off here. So once again, dude, it's going to be the guide for me. Alright, so moving on to hopefully more positive versions of Spooky here, we have the Light One, who is an attacker type, coming in with 27k HP, which is what they seem to love for this Astromon in general. 3.1k attack stat, and then 2.3k defense. So a little bit glassy, but her attack stat is decent, and with her being a Lightmon, you know, she is easier to build with that crit rate, so you can maximize crit damage instead. So taking a look at her skills here, 3-star skill, Courageous Strike. This is very useful in regards to Titans and in the Void Dungeon, in the lower applications of the Void Dungeon. You could also use it in Colossus too if you happen to not, you know, pick up like Dark Indra, because that Dark Indra Primal Festival, wow, that literally, I don't even know what to say about that. 3-star skill, Titans, Colossus, and of course the Void Dungeon depending on your level. 5-star skill is Defense Up, which increases allies defense by 70% for 2 turns. Some synergy there, but kind of not, because she is an attacker type, and yes, she's doing Courageous Strike, but she's also hitting the squad with Defense Up. Ideally speaking, to get the most damage out of her, is going to be that Courageous Strike. I do see Defense Up having some applications, however, unless you don't have a healer on your team that has Defense Up, or someone like Okeanos with offense and defense, this could be a just basically a substitute Astromon until you get mons like, I don't think Light Bolt Wing's in the meta right now, but until you even get Light Bolt Wing or a couple of like Siegfrieds, this mon could hold you over into your right lane, or maybe move her over to the left lane, and once you start replacing and getting better Astromon, even like Shinobi, because Primal Festivals are a thing nowadays, you would eventually phase her out. So, I mean, starting off, it's not bad. Not bad whatsoever. So, Courageous Strike does get a 20% damage boost. Defense Up receives a 20% damage boost as well, and it goes up to 3 turns, so not bad. Her issue is just her trying to be a hybrid of 2 things, which never synergize together in the first place. But you know, it's important to use what you can use, especially in regards to hitting Dark Titan. And I think she is okay as a substitute Astromon until you can move on to better things. And then last but not least here, we have the dark version of Spooky. Once again, great color palette, even though it's literally the water one, set for darker shades. She is a tank type, and she's a Nat 4, of course, coming in with 37k HP, okay. 2k attack, 2.2k defense. Defense is awful, attack doesn't matter, she's a tank. HP, it is what it is, dude. So, doesn't look favorable, but let's take a look at the skills here. So 3-star skill is going to be Barb Taunt, grants 80% chance to draw enemies' attention for 1 turn. And then for the 5-star skill, Vengeance, which if remaining HP is 50% or below, increases her attack power by 200%. However, she does have a 2k attack stat, and more importantly, she has a 2.2k defense stat. So this is very similar to Dark Nisha back in the day, which is another Nat 3/Nat 4 in the Rebirth rotation. And Vengeance is something that's fun, but it's, at least in my opinion, it's never really used, or I don't really observe it being used, just because it's so much risk versus reward, and we have Nat 5s with ultimate evolutions, unfortunately. So it is what it is. I think this is a bit overall just underwhelming, because Barb Taunt is used to help mitigate damage, and then you have Vengeance for your 5-star skill, which implies that you're going to be taking heavy damage in order to get it activated. So it does kind of lead up to her 5-star skill with the Barb Taunt of taunting all the Astromon to hit her, but if she passes away, she may only get a turn or two before Vengeance, you know, not only does decent damage, but once she gets targeted again after that first Vengeance, you know, being hit to the other Astromon, she passes away, and that's pretty much it. So you could use her just for the fun of it, but ideally the light one seems to be just about it, at least in one man's opinion on the internet. And this is an exotic Nat 4, so everybody has an opportunity to get her, hence why she isn't going to be super OP. But anyways, Barb Taunt does receive a 15% damage boost, and it goes up to 90% for 2 turns. Vengeance receives, what is that? 35% damage boost. Is that going to be enough to kind of close the gap in between this Astromon or not? I don't think so. Maybe she would be interesting in PvP, but because of stats just being so insanely high nowadays, I don't think that there's going to be enough edge for her to really have a niche in PvP unless she's built super well. But hey, I could be wrong. But yeah, this is purely just like a PvP Astromon. But that wraps up Spooky, you guys. Right before I end the video, let's go ahead and do one man's little tier list of Spooky. Keep in mind, I am one man, I am a professional, but this is unlicensed advice here. So starting off with the fire one, let me go over here. The fire one, Shield Breaker and Weaken, we have access to Kiki. Weaken I would prefer as a 3-star skill. It could even be a super extension skill at this point in time. So the fire one for me is definitely going to be, what is it, C, D tier. Absolute D tier. We don't even need to discuss that anymore. In regards to the water one, D tier once again, arguably even worse than the fire one, because resistance down is good. Thirst and resistance down, it's not for me, dog. It's just not for me. The wood one is a wave clearer. However, we have access to all other wave clearers out there in the world, even as a newer player beginning of the game today, after you've hopefully watched this video, or you're downloading the game while you're watching this video. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and say D tier, just because her puncture isn't that great whatsoever, even if you decided to use her over even Dark Mona or someone of that nature. And her stats are super anemic. Dark Mona has a super evolution. It's like, why? I mean, she is a wood puncturer, but, or wood wave clearer, shall I clarify, but once again, it's going to be D for me. Maybe you want to put her in high D, but it's still just D. In regards to the light one here, Courageous Strike and Defense up. Not an optimal setup, but as I stated before, she could be substituted or used quite a while until you get your monsters up in regards to hitting Dark Titan to get some more damage. So I could see her being a mainstay for a lot of newer players out there until you phase her out. So I'm just going to put her in regards to all the Spookies in S tier. In regards to Spookies, not in S tier Courageous Striker, in regards to this video only. And then last but not least, well, should I say least, the dark one, Barb Taunt and Vengeance. Interesting synergy. Not sure if she's going to be able to compete in regards to her stats with, you know, obviously Nat 5s and other mons of that nature, as I hinted to before. So I'm going to go and say she's maybe B or A tier. I would probably go more so with B tier, because I don't know, to me there's just not enough edge or worthwhile use of her outside of you just beginning the game and maybe wanting an interesting PvP mon to use when there's just much better choices. But obviously, even if you get those better choices, it takes time to get those guys gemmed up and geared up in Evo 3. But yeah, that is Spooky. I think design wise, she's awesome. It's nice that at least one of these is useful too. And yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. Feel free to leave in the comments below about what you guys think about Spooky, if you're going for her or not. Your boy is, because I'm full about that Asher guide at this point in time. And yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. See ya.